All right, let's get going. This is Math 1. We're on Worksheet 3. We're going to be going over talking about setting up box and whisker plots. Okay, so number 1 it says actually it's going to be more than just number 1, but for this problem here it says use the following data for numbers 1 through 8. The class scores for the Unit 6 test are given below, and you can see we have a large number of these. What's up, John? Mr. Martin just came in. I'm recording right now.
That's why I waved you off. Sorry.
All right, so we're going to put our data in here from smallest to largest. Okay, so let's see. Smallest number, I'm just going to put them in order here. So we got 45. Do we have any other numbers in the 40s? Nope. Let's see. Do we have any numbers in the 50s? We sure do not. So let's go to the 60s. So we got a number there, got 62, and a 68. So we're going to go 62, 68, 69. Cross them off as I go. This is a good habit to get into. If you're sorting in numbers, you want to cross them off. Start at the lowest one and do exactly what I'm doing. Now I'm going to mark and denote numbers in the 70s. So there's 2 of them, there's 3 of them, there's 4 of them. There's 5 of them, there's 6 of them. So I'm going to have 6 numbers in the 70s. And let's see, I got 74, I got a 72, that's my smallest one in the 70s. Then I have a 74 right here. Then I have a 75, that'd be right there. And then I got a 76, a 77, and a 76. So I got 2 76s and I got a 77. Alright, so let's cross those off, and now let's denote all the numbers in the 80s. So I got an 88, an 83, an 88, another 83, an 84, and an 81. So my smallest 80s is 81, and then I got no 82s, but I got an 83. Actually I have 2 83s, so I'll put those there. Yeah, I got an 84 for sure, so there's an 84. Do I have any other 84s? No, I got 2 88s though. I got an 88 here and an 88 there. Alright, and then lastly, let's put the numbers that are in the 90s. So I got a 95, a 99, and a 93. So 93, 95, and 99. Okay, now one thing you should do after you put them in order, you should just count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I have 19 test scores. Count them up here, see if it matches up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It seems to match up. Okay, so we're going to find the minimum, Q1, median, Q3, and the maximum. Okay, all right. So my minimum is always going to be my smallest value after I sort my data. So that's going to be 45. My maximum is going to be my largest piece of data, which in this case would be the highest score, which is a 98. Okay, and then the next thing I like to find, and you probably should find them in this order, is the next thing I'm going to find the median. All right, now, so the median is also known as Q2. You might want to know that. So to find the median, I'm just going to start at the outside numbers and I'm going to start counting in. Now remember, I had 19 pieces of data. That's an odd number piece of data, so that means I'm only going to have one number in the middle. The median is the number in the middle. So counting in each time, we've got this. We've got 88 and 69, 88 and 72, 84 and 74, 83 and 75, 83 and 76. So you can see that number right there, 77, that's my middle number. So that is going to be my median. Okay, now that is important because wherever the median is helps me determine my Q1 and my Q3 values. So my Q1 value is going to be my lower half numbers here, which is from 45 up to that 76, not counting the median, and it's going to be the middle number of my lower half of numbers. So counting in one at a time, finding the middle number there, my Q1 is going to be 72. So that number right there is my Q1, 72. And then my Q3 is going to be, I go to my upper half of numbers, the numbers to the right of my median, and it's the middle number of those. So counting in by ones, you can see my Q3 is going to be 88. Okay, so that would be finding those. Okay, so now it says find the IQR. So what does IQR stand for? Interquartile range. My interquartile range is I take my Q3 value, I subtract my Q1 value from it. So if I was doing this, my Q3 value is 88, my Q1 value is 72. I subtract those. That tells me my IQR is going to be 16. Okay, and so now we're going to create a box and whisker plot. So when we make a box and whisker plot, what we're going to do is we're going to have a number line, and we're going to put all of this data on our number line. So I'm going to start at 45, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to work my way all the way up on a number line up to my maximum value of 99. Okay, now I obviously don't want to go by ones, because if I went by ones, that's going to give me a lot of tick marks, and it would just be kind of, you know, a little bit of overkill. So I'm going to go by fives. That seems realistic. I only have to go up to basically 100. So 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. All right, I really didn't have to go up to the 100. I could have stopped at 99, but since I was going by 5, I might as well have been consistent. Okay, now, in order to create a box and whisker plot, what we do is we take these 5 values right here from number 2, the minimum, the maximum, the median, Q1 and Q3, and we put dots below the number line of each of these. So my minimum is at 45, so I put a dot below 45. My maximum is at 99, so I put a dot below the number line at about where 99 is. Okay, my medium is 77. 77 is about right there, so I put a dot below where 77 would be. My Q1 is at 72. 72 is probably about right there, so I put a dot where 72 is about, and then 88 for Q3. 88 would probably be about right there, so I put a dot there. Okay, so this right here, this is my min, that's my Q1, that's my median, this is my Q3, and this is my max. Okay, and then what I do is to create the box and the whisker plot, I make a box or a rectangle around Q1 going to Q3. So the box is always connecting Q1 to Q3. There's a box around it. Through the median, you draw a vertical line. All right? And then you connect the box to the maximum with a line, a horizontal line, and then you connect the box to the minimum with a horizontal line. Okay, you guys? So that right there would be my box and my whisker plot. All right? So now we have identify any outliers in the data set. Okay, so what is an outlier? Well, an outlier is any number that looks out of place. So if I looked at all of my numbers right here, you could see that my outlier, I would say that probably 45 is an outlier. Okay, so when it says identify any outliers, if we had to pick one, I would pick 45. Why is that? Well, these are test scores. So like this is a D, and then we go from like a D to like a big time F, 45%. Let's assume these are percentages. All right, that's a big time F. So I would say that's an outlier from everything else in this problem right here. Okay, and then it says create a box and whisker plot for the data without the outlier. All right, so what that means is I'm going to have to look at my data again, and I'm going to have to create a box and whisker plot without my data. Okay, so that means what I really have to do is I'm going to rewrite my numbers right here: 68, 69, 72, 74, 75, 76, 76, 77, 81, 83, 83, 84, 88, 88, 93, Thank goodness this was a small class, right? And there weren't that many students who took the test. All right, and I'm going to create my box and whisker plot here. Okay, so now just to be consistent so we can see the difference in the box and whisker plots, when I make this, I'm going to use the exact same values and the exact same intervals that I used in the previous box and whisker plot. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because we're going to compare them in a second. All right, even though I really didn't have to do that, because you can see my minimum is going to be 62 without the outlier of 45. Okay, all right, so the box and whisker plot, my minimum is 62. So 62 is about right here. I'm going to put a point. Excuse me. Got a piece of popcorn stuck in my throat. Just ate popcorn before I made this. My maximum is 99, so my 99 is about right there, so I'm going to put a point below the number line at 99. Okay, now I'm going to find my median, and my median here is going to change. And I'm going to write that up here so we could see it. Okay, so counting this off, finding the median, counting in by ones each time. I'm just moving in by ones to find my median. All right, so I've got those, I've got that right there, I've got right there, and you can see my median's right here. Okay, so I actually have two medians. So what do we do when we have two medians? Not a problem. I take the two numbers, I add them up, my two medians, and then I divide by 2. So 77, I add that to 81, I divide that by 2, that gives me my median of 79. Okay, so I'm going to go to 79 right here, which is probably about right there. I'm going to put a point below the number line for my median. All right, so once again, this is my min, this is my median, this is my max. Now I need to find my Q1. So my Q1 is going to be the middle of my lower numbers. So going to my lower numbers, not counting these two numbers, finding the middle of that. All right, so I'm counting in by ones. And you can see that I have two numbers for my Q1. All right, so what do I do if I have two numbers? Same thing. I add these up, I divide by 2. That would be 73. So I just found out that my Q1 is 72 plus 74 divided by 2. So that's equal to 73. So I go to 73, which is probably about right there, and I put a point below the number line at 73. Then I do the same for my Q3 value. So my Q3 value is going to be the middle of my upper half of numbers. All right, so I'm counting in, I'm finding the middle. You can see I have two middles, they're both 88. Well, that means if I added them up and divided it by 2, my Q3 is going to be 88. So 88 is about right there. All right, so here's my Q1 right there, there's my Q3, and now I'm going to make the box and whisker plot. So the box always goes around from Q1 to Q3. You draw a vertical line through the median, and then you connect the whiskers, the minimum to the box and the maximum to the box. Okay, so then number 7 says, compare the two box and whisker plots. How does the outlier affect the graph? Okay, so there's a couple things that you notice right away. First of all, this whisker right here is much smaller. Okay, so the left whisker is small, or as we'll say, is larger with the outlier. And we should say that because it wants to know how does the outlier affect the graph. All right, and then the other thing is when we have the outlier here, notice Q3 is at 88. Here Q3 was still at 88. Q1 was at 72, but the Q1 was 73. So the Q1 wasn't affected that much. All right, but the median was 79 versus here it was 77. So it shifted, it really didn't shift my, so my box, my interquartile range did not change. So really the major effect that it had on it was at this left whisker, okay? What effect will the outlier have on the mean of the data? So we weren't asked to find the mean, all right, but when you have an outlier, what it does to the mean is it it either makes the mean, the average, smaller or larger than what it actually is, okay? So what it does is it makes the mean, and we'll say slash average because that's what mean is, makes the mean slash average inaccurate. Okay, it does not give us a good reading, okay? So by inaccurate, I guess it means not a good reading, not a good idea, we'll say, of what the average actually is. Okay, so that would be numbers 1 through 8. All right, okay, so for problems 9 through 10, we're going to create a box and whisker plot for the two data sets, and then we're going to compare. Okay, so we've got weekly cars sold, so we have Kathy. So the first thing, I'll do Kathy in blue, we'll do Sam in red. So we're going to put the numbers in order for Kathy. So we have 3, then 4, then 5, no 6s, we have a 7. All right, then we have 2 8s, so 8 and 8. Then we have a 9, an 11, and a 12. So 9, 11, and 12. Okay, so this is Kathy right here. We'll put K for Kathy. Okay, then for Sam, putting Sam's in order. So Sam, smallest data was, we're sorting the data, 2, then a 5, then a 6, 2, 5, 6. Then we have 2 7s, 7, 7, then we have a 9 and a 9, 2 9s and 2 10s for Sam. Okay, all right, so we're going to create a box and whisker plot. So what do you need to create a box and a whisker plot? You guys, well, there are 5 things you need for a box and whisker plot. And to speed this up, what we'll do is we'll make a little table of the 5 things that we need for a box and whisker plot. We need the minimum, we need the maximum, we need the median, we need Q1 and Q3. And I think it's a good idea that when you're finding these 5, that you find them in this order. Okay, so the minimum. So for Kathy, the minimum is 3, the maximum is 12. Okay, the median, we're just going to count in and find the middle number. Counting in one at a time from each side. You can see there's my median right here. Okay, so my median is going to be 8. My Q1 is going to be the middle of the lower values, which, wait, did I mess up here? No, I'm good. Okay, the middle of the lower values here. So you can see we have 2 middles here for Q1. All right, so 4 and 5. So we add them up. 4 plus 5 is 9. We divide by 2. So the Q1 is going to be 9 divided by 2. So that's 4.5. And to get the Q3, that's the middle of my upper numbers. So I have 2 upper numbers here. I add those up. That's 20. I divide that by 2. So my Q3 is 10. All right, moving over to Sam. The minimum is 12. The maximum is 10. The median, finding the middle number, I'm counting in one at a time. So there and there. You can see there's my median right there. So my median is going to be 7. My Q1 is the middle of these numbers, so it's 5 and 6. I add up 5 and 6, that's 11. I divide 11 by 2 because there's 2 middles, 5.5. All right, my middle here for my Q3 would be these 2 numbers here. I add those up, that's 19. I divide that by 2, so I get 9.5. Okay, all right, so here we go. We're going to make a box and whisker plot for Kathy. We're going to make a box and whisker plot for Sam. Okay, so Kathy is ranging from 3 to 12. Sam is from 2 to 10. So let's just go ahead and let's just go by ones. I think that's pretty appropriate for both of them. And I'll try to line them up so that when we compare the box and whisker plots, we can see that if there's any differences between the 2 values. So Kathy, because her maximum was 12, I have to, whoops, sorry, I forgot how to count. We have to go all the way up to 12. And then for Sam, we're going to make the same values, and I'll use a ruler so that we're lined up here, so that it looks, so when we do the comparison, it looks pretty good as we go. Okay? Alright, give me a second here. This is a little bit tedious to do. It sure would have been nice that whoever made this worksheet, I'll talk to the person who did this, which means I'll be talking to myself, but that's okay. Probably should have put in these values ahead of time, like the tick marks at least, or the interval marks as well, and then have you guys decide what intervals we decide to use. Okay? Alright, so remember, when we're making a box and whisker plot, we're going to put dots below the number line. So Kathy, the minimum is 3, put a dot below 3. Maximum is 12, put a dot below 12. The median is 8, so put a dot below 8. Q1 is 4.5, that's halfway between 4 and 5. And Q3 is 10. So there are the 5 dots that I need. Okay, so here's Q1. To make the box, you make a box that goes from Q1 all the way to Q3. So there's my box. You draw a vertical line going right through the median, and then you draw the whiskers connecting the box to the max and the box to the minimum. So there's my box and whisker plot for Kathy, and then let's make it for Sam. So Sam's minimum was 2, put a dot below 2. His maximum was 10, put a dot below 10. Sam's median was 7, so put a dot below 7. His Q1 was 5.5, that's halfway between 5 and 6, put a dot. And his Q3 was 9.5, halfway between 9 and 10. Alright, so now to make the box, we connect the Q1, which was 5.5, to the Q3, which is 9.5. We draw a vertical line right through the median. And then we draw the whiskers, box to max, box to min. So when we compare these, you guys, you can see we've got a longer whisker here, we've got a shorter whisker here for Sam, and then you can see Sam's box isn't as big as well. Whereas the inner quartile range for Kathy was bigger than the inner quartile range for Sam. Okay, but that would be the box and the whisker plot. Okay, moving on to the next one, we've got video lengths of training. Speaking of video lengths, we're over 20 minutes here. Hopefully we can get this one done in a decent amount of time here. Okay, so this will be training number 1. So let's call that T1. All right, so the first thing I have to do is I have to sort the data. Alright, so I've got a 45, that looks like that's my lowest piece of data. Then I've got a 50 and a 51 and a 59, so 50, 59, 51, 50, 51, 59. Then in the 60s, I've got a 62, another 62, a 65 and a 67. So I've got 62, 62, 65, 67. Then in the 70s, I have a 70 and a 78. Okay, so that right there is going, 70 and 78. Okay, for training 2, which I'll call T2, sorting this data out, let's see, my lowest looks like I don't have anything below 50. So I got a 50, I got a 54, I got a 58. So 50, 54, 58. In the 60s, I've got a 60, a 64, a 60. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to remember this. I've got a bunch of 60s. So I've got 2 60s. Okay, then I have a 62. And then I have a 64. If I miss anything, just start yelling at the video. I might hear you, probably not. And then I have a 67 and a 69. And then in the 70s, it looks like I got just a 71. So this is my data in order. Okay? Alright, so I got to make a box and whisker plot. So what we got to do is, and we'll make it down here. So we have T1 for training 1. We have T2 for training 2. In order to make a box and whisker plot, there is 5 pieces of data that we have to find. And the 5 pieces of data are, and you should find them in this order. You got to find the minimum, you got to find the maximum, you got to find the median, you got to find Q1, and you got to find Q3. Okay, so this is the 5 pieces of data. So training 1, the minimum is 45. The maximum is 78. The median is going to be, starting from the outsides and counting in, there we go, 67.51, 65.59. You can see I have 2 medians, and they're both 62. So the median has to be 62. Q1 is the middle of my lower values, and I have 2 of them. So what do I do if I have 2 of them? I add them up. 50 plus 51, I divide that by 2. That would be 50.5. Okay, so for Q3, you can see I have 2 middles for my upper values. What do I do if I have 2 of them? You're right, I add them up, I divide by 2. That would be, whoops, no, that's not, I'm doing it on my calculator, that's not right. I would do 67 plus 70, and then I would divide that by 2, that's 68.5. Okay, now for T2, my minimum is 50. My maximum is 71. My median is going to be, I'm going to count in, so 69 and 54, 7 and 58, 64 and 60. You can see I have 2 medians. So what do? I add them up and I divide by 2. My median is going to be 61. Then my Q1 is going to be the middle of my lower values. You can see I have 2 lower values here. So I add them up and I divide by 2, so my Q1 is 56. And then my middle of my upper values is my Q3, and that's going to be 68. You add these 2 up, you divide by 2, that gives me a Q3 value of 68. Okay, so that means when I set up my plot and my whisker, I'm going to start at 45, because that's my min. I'm going to work my way all the way up to 6. I'll go ahead and I'll go by 5s, and I'll work my way up to, well, we'll stop at 70. So there's 45. That's going to be 50. I got smart this time. That's 55. That's going to be 60. That's going to be 65. It's going to be 70. That's going to be for, these are going to be the marks for 75. These are going to be the marks for 80. These are going to be the marks for 85. These are going to be the marks for, why am I going so high? I could have stopped. No. Oh, I'm good. Okay, so that's 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85. My max is 78 for that one. So this is T1. All right, so I put a dot below 45. I put a dot below 78. Put a dot below 62, the median. I put a dot below 50.5, which probably would be about right about there. And I put a dot below 68.5, which probably would be, I'm just estimating, it's about right there. Okay, so to make my box and whisker, I connect, the box is always Q1 to Q3, which would be these. It's always the second and the fourth dot. You draw a vertical line through the median, and then you connect the minimum to the box and the maximum to the box for your whisker. Okay, so then when I do the T2 box and whisker to compare the 2 of them, 45, 50, 60, 70, 80, all right, the minimum is 45, so I'm going to put, you know what, I'll go above so we can see it a little bit better. 50, the maximum is 71, so that's about right there. The median is 61, so it's about right there. The Q1 is going to be at 56, about right there. And Q2 is at 68, just a little bit before 70, or Q3, excuse me, is 68, right there. Okay, so here's my Q1, here's my Q3, so I make a box. Okay. Draw a vertical line through the median. So the medians are almost perfectly lined up, all right, and then I make my whiskers. So you can see the training here, the whiskers are much shorter and they're more further in. Okay, there we go.